there's a fine line between what's practical and what's like chasing things because of a perceived obligation. And I think that right now everybody is on one or other side of that line, and it's worth being very mindful of what it is that you need to do for your business right now.
I couldn't agree more, especially on this temptation here of, wanting to chase that shiny new object. Here in this case, it was AI. I think 10 years ago it was data science, for example, right? Or machine learning. So maybe what advice would you give leaders here to cut through the noise and try to ascertain how to best ascertain what would be the best outcome for their business in this situation?
Well, I think a good starting point is to go back to that idea that I introduced about breaking what's already broken. It's worth asking, what are the things that you are doing in your business, either internally or for your customers, that is not perfect, that people don't maybe like, maybe at all, or maybe not as much as you wish they did. And are you protecting, out of a fear of change, are you protecting systems that aren't actually maximizing your opportunity? And if so, then the next question has to be, how do I unlock new opportunity? And I'll tell you a quick story that's fascinated me since the moment that it was told to me, which is not exactly an AI story, but it's a technology disruption story. And that is, I was talking to this guy whose name is Hamza Mudassir. He's a disruption expert at Cambridge. And he tells me about this interesting theory, which is that, what killed Kodak? Everyone always says what killed Kodak is, tell it to me, it's very obvious. The digital camera, right? Everyone says that the Kodak was killed by the digital camera. And there's plenty of reason to say that. Kodak was involved in the development of the digital camera, didn't take it seriously, and was flat-footed when the digital camera exploded in popularity. But there's another way of thinking about it. And the other way of thinking about it is this. The digital camera did not kill Kodak. Facebook killed Kodak. Now, how do you get there? Well, it goes like this. The first digital cameras sucked. They did. I had one. It was not good. It was right. It was expensive. Do you remember? It was expensive.
Yeah,
it was
pretty bad. Yeah.
The photos. Yeah, the photos were grainy. It could barely store, photos, and it's like a small little memory
megabyte
chip.
Yeah,
right. There was nothing. And then what were you going to do with it? What were you supposed to do with it? Because you could take these grainy photos and put them on your computer, but like, why? For what purpose? Whereas you were living in a world in which people took more high quality photos with camera film and then printed them out and put them on refrigerators or mailed them somewhere, put them in a book. Like that was what we did with it. And the use case for the digital camera wasn't clear. And then Facebook came along, and Facebook was the first real mass use case for storing and sharing digital photos. Now people understood how to organize photos and give people access to photos. There was a place to put photos that made sense. Do you remember at the very beginning of Facebook, you would like treat Facebook like your just personal storage device. You just you take a bunch of photos, you just like upload them all to Facebook. Yeah, they'd have albums, right? Albums that you could browse yourself. It was a totally different way of thinking of it. And that, the theory goes, was the thing that helped people recognize the value of the digital camera over camera film. And that is what killed Kodak. And the lesson here for Kodak, or for the Kodaks of the future, is not, take the new technology seriously. Because look, there's a lot of new technologies, and which ones do you take seriously? The lesson is, you better understand what business you're in. Because Kodak thought that it was in the camera film business, and as a result, it thought of its competitors as producers of camera film. And therefore, if you understand your competitors, you understand how to compete against your competitors, which is in a traditional linear way. I better make my camera film cheaper and better than my competition, and that's how to beat them. But when your competition is something totally different, because it turns out that you're in a totally different kind of business, the rules of the game change. What would have happened if Kodak had thought of itself as being not in the camera film business, but rather being in the memory business? We are in the business of preserving your memories. Well, now these nascent social networks, because Facebook didn't invent it, right? MySpace had been around, Friendster was around, they saw this stuff. They could have invested in that. They could have said, oh, this is also in the business of memories, just like we are. We should get into that. That would have led to a completely different way of thinking about your business and how you serve your customers. And that, I think, is what business leaders today need to be thinking about. Technology is changing. The way in which you're going to serve your consumer is going to change. You better have a really clear idea before you even think about the technology, generative AI or anything else. You better have a really clear idea about what it is that you do. What is your purpose in the world? Why do people turn to you? And once you understand that in a very clear way, you can better understand how and whether new technologies help you do that.